Let me ask you something. Do you ever feel like you're capable of more, but something keeps on holding you back? That's where Phil comes in. Phil is a professional master coach and a master practitioner in NLP, timeline therapy and hypnotherapy with years of real-world experience building and growing businesses. His passion is simple: helping you reimagine your life or your business, break through limitations and build unstoppable momentum for good. Whether you want a powerful one-off session or ongoing support where Phil walks you through every step of the way, everything is tailored to you and your goals. If you're ready for real, lasting change, Phil might be exactly who you've been looking for. To find out more what Phil does, just visit philhanlon.com for more information. George & Co. create crafted spaces that stand the test of time. Royal Society of Architects Wales award winners and Wales Home of the Year regional winners. Featured on TV and in leading magazines, they are based in Merthyr and Swansea, designing exceptional homes across Wales. They proudly sponsor today's episode.
We're still recording, is it?
Yeah, we're still recording.
I think I've been calling Ron, but then, no, Mark.
Yeah, welcome back to Just One Man podcast. We're back in the Iron Dragon in Merthyr. Very grateful, obviously, again, from letting us use this space.
Yeah.
We've got an episode kind of lined up that can go a number of different ways. And I think, you know, there's going to be a lot of truth, a lot of emotion, a lot of raw fact, and probably the first time that a story that people think that they know is actually going to be told for what it is. So goes out saying I'm very very grateful, very privileged. We're joined today by Gemma and by Paul Meek. Thanks for coming on, for starters.
No problem.
And being willing to share your story. There's no kind of easy way, because of what we're going to talk about, there's no easy way to kind of go around the houses, so I just dive in as I'm known to do. So basically, in November of 2023,
25th.
Yeah, the 25th, your kind of world as you know it, your kind of lives changed forever, kind of irreparable damage, as it were, when obviously your brother Gemma, your son Paul,
Yep.
Alex, took his own life.
Yep.
We'll get into a lot of that,
Yeah.
but for a lot of
that's
people who may not know Alex, the very rare people that wouldn't have heard his name or seen a photo of him, how would you describe Alex to someone that didn't know him?
He was one of a kind. I've said it. He was a very quiet man. I can't remember where I used that quote. Where did I use that quote? He was a very quiet man. You wouldn't get a conversation out of him. You know. But then, as the story will go on, you'll find out he was full of conversation. Yeah. Whereas he was just a normal child, teenager, and turned into one of the most loveliest men you'd ever meet. He was kind, caring, he'd do anything for anybody, you know, but look, all that's irrelevant at the moment to us because he isn't here.
Yeah.
But like, I wouldn't have thought if he was here he would change. He'd have his moments like everyone else. Yeah. You know, they were like cat and dog at the best of times. But their relationship was, I think it was special, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think Alex was a friend to many, and since his death, I didn't realise that he was probably a best friend to loads. He had pockets of people within the whole of Merthyr that loved him, and he loved them as well. And I was lucky enough to call him my brother, but he was my best friend. I spoke to him every day. He was down my house raiding my protein and my food every day. And he was really special, one of a kind, and he was really passionate about giving people a chance and making sure that everyone was okay, which is ironic that we're in this situation.
Yeah.
There was no trouble in him, all right, you know, it was, like I said, everybody has their moments, everybody got their weaknesses, but like, I don't think it was, like, he was funny, I'd laugh him, but like, he couldn't do nothing in the house except cook. A cracking cook.
Couldn't
you
clean
know,
the
the
dishes
fucking wash up. You know, he's 20 odd years of age, and I'm doing all his washing. And then he gets this white top. I'm a mechanic.
I'd have to do the whitewashes.
He'd have to do the whites because my fingerprints were going over them with oil.
Yeah.
Because they were imprinted on me, you leave a little mark.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, do you know what, do them yourself then.
But he would, and I'd
I
have
actually said that. I spoke in Alex's funeral, and I actually said Alex thought that, you know, he was the most messiest person I've ever seen in his bedroom. Cutlery, honestly, I used to cringe. I'm quite clean and tidy. And I said it in his funeral about he'd put all the rubbish in a black bag and leave it there. But I'm sure he thought on a Friday morning, the ash man
would come in the house.
went up the stairs and took it down and put it on the lorry. But actually, you know, it was me. But like every time I mentioned it to him, in the end, it was just a habit with me. I just go and do it. You know, but he was a character. He was, you know, he was dry, he was shy, he was blunt. He had all the qualities everybody would have asked for. You know, even with kids, and I can speak firsthand of that. It's like Geraint Thomas said in the FAW interview we done. He said, kids loved him. He said he was like a Pied Piper. You know, I could put him in with any age group. It wouldn't faze him.
He was a perfect role model, I think, to the kids as well. Like, I think, especially in football, they could see how much he loved it. And I remember when he passed away, we're in the coaches group for Red Lion, and there was just constant messages going on. And one of the parents said, I've just had to sit down and explain to my kids about Alex. And what his kid said to him, but why was Alex a coach in Red Lion? Because he didn't have a kid, didn't they? And he said, I didn't know what to say, because all I could say is that he just loved it so much that he wanted people to do it, because, you know, he turned up week in, week out, and but he didn't have any kids up there.
It's the same as me. I got no children, Well, the only children I had there, I got one there now, because Gemma does all safeguarding. And we had, obviously, Alex in there. Yeah. But, like, he was just passionate about things. He wouldn't say a lot, because... No. Oh, I don't know, he was fucking wind me right up. Yeah. Honestly.
It's one of the things where he didn't say much, but when he did say something, he meant
note.
It. He meant it.
You would take note of it.
Yeah.
You'd have to.
Yeah.
Because 9 times, he shouldn't have been, he was a well-being officer in Penrith School. And go back to the question you just asked. You got parents knocking the door. And I'm looking at these people, and they're standing there with cards. And I was just saying, come in, because I didn't know them. Yeah. And no, we just wanted to give you this, and we opened the cards up, and you just gobsmacked, you know.
Paragraphs
off the kids written themselves.
That the kids had written.
They'd written them themselves, and how he'd supported them but like, and then you get messages off their mother, you know. I spoke to Jane. About, because loads of kids were sending me friend requests, and I'm thinking, I can't be having that. But then I realised that's all they wanted to do was pay their respects to Alex. So we made a list out who they were, so they could leave their messages, and then I would remove them.
Right.
You know, but no, when we go further on in the story, is when you find out what we did. You know, looking at each other and thinking, told me.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing. Like, since all this, I didn't realise how much he helped people. Like, obviously, I loved him. I thought he was amazing and everything. But he's my brother, and it's since that he's passed away, hearing people's stories about him, and people coming on to saying, "Oh my God, he helped me so much, and he taught me how to do this." And there's a story from somewhere that. this person was really struggling with their mental health, and Alex said, when do you struggle the most? And he would call him at that time every night to see if he was all right, talk about the weather, talk about football, and he'd done that every night.
Yeah.
We didn't know nothing about it.
We didn't know anything about that, and and people are saying he saved my life, and I'm like, that what, Alex?
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Yeah.
It was just.
But he did
You're
everything
looking at all
with
these
purpose.
people, and you're thinking,
Yeah.
I'm like him. He was my twice when Gemma was away. Do you know what I mean? Me and him, when Gemma, I can remember Gemma going up on the escalator in Heathrow, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Levelling out, standing there. It's the worst thing she could have done. Is it go like that? I looks at him, he's sobbing, and I fucking started me off then. You know, but like he was, look, he is lost. He's a loss to me, to Gemma, to the family.
To the community.
To the community.
Yeah, you know.
Because it sounds like he was like, he didn't realise he was helping these people so much, hence the reason why he didn't talk about it, because he didn't take a blind eye to it.
No.
It was just something he did.
Yeah.
I always said, do you know, he didn't go to school, right, for about 2 years, and he used to get away with it. But all of a sudden, he just snapped. I went back to school, passed all his exams, goes to Craig and Rob in the college, does a year or two there, wasn't it? Straight into uni, comes out, passes, does this, does that. But Alex, being Alex, he gets them qualifications. I'm working for Andrew tomorrow, my brother. What do you mean? He said, I'm going valeting cars. Didn't he? Mm-hmm. Whatever, I don't care. Do you know what I mean? As long as you're happy, I don't. Do you know what I mean?
But I think because he
They were
had
giving him
everything
so
that
much money as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, there is that. But he was getting everything that he wanted out of the Red Lion, coaching with people like Ponty Town and Aberbargite Buds, and he was getting like so many good opportunities outside of work that he was just like, I'm happy with this balance, and this is what I want to do, and he's got pockets of people everywhere.
They started
amazing.
like my brother sells vans and stuff. So Alex was the media operator.
Social
But out
media.
of that media, they were giving him hundreds of pounds. When they sell something, it just made him stay here. Oh, I got all this money now, do you know what I mean? I'm not claiming anything, it's all mine. And then like the story started unfolding, and didn't it? It wasn't certain people's idea of what he should be doing. Not the family. Not the family. And what was said was disgusting. They know I know. But like, they can't look me in the eye. None of them can. And he sort of went into this role as well-being officer. And they loved him up there. He was really good with the kids, and he made loads of friends. But like, ultimately, as the story goes, the school has been his downfall. That's been his downfall. I don't even bother with him up there.
Yeah, because I think, and it's the kind of easy narrative to go down is obviously you've got someone who on the surface, as you said, appears to be really fulfilled, and they've got lots of stuff going on, they've got a loving family, they've got a huge social circle. So what goes wrong? Where does it go wrong?
So it started, I've always been quite honest about Alex, and, he was in that relationship for 11 years and it came to an end, which is what it is, but he couldn't cope with it. And he'd done something stupid that night. He had no intentions of doing it, but he did it, right? And when I got to the scene, he was nowhere near where they said he was. But then again, South Wales Police, he's a nutcase. That's the bottom line with them. You're a nutcase. That's the way they look upon people. And I'm thinking, no, he's not. He's just done that to get attention off certain people. So straight away you go to crisis team. Complete waste of time. This fella sitting there with a clipboard, am I right? Giving it all this. They even messed that up. We took him in to see the crisis team. Next thing you know, he's going in to have his temperature taken and this, that and the other. And I said to the nurse, I said, why are you doing that? I said, he's up for the crisis team. Oh shit, she said we're in the wrong place. You need to go back here. So, 3 hours later, he's getting more and more frustrated. And so I actually took a week off work, and I took him everywhere that week because he was struggling with it. You know what I mean? he was still a young kid, as far as I'm concerned, with the relationship had gone tits up, like. And so I think we went to every flaming beach, because we were looking at camper vans for him and everything. But like, he was still going down and down. He still, and I just couldn't get no help. I phoned Mind, I phoned Mental, you know, I've had words with Coyote. They're just a complete waste of space. They're not interested, you know. And like, you all know, we mates with Darren. Darren's been like family to us. He still is, you know. Signpost Camp Cymru, and a number was slotted in my pocket up in the hospital. I rang our man at 9 o'clock. Alex was sitting in front of him at 11:30.
Yeah.
He had his therapy, and they were winding him up. He did do some stupid stuff along the way, but he was just trying to attract attention to himself. You know, I always said I didn't like him drinking, Jem, didn't I? Because it's a suppressant.
Yeah.
And it was a suppressant for him. But he couldn't drink anyway. He was the worst drinker you'll ever meet.
And he never did. So, you know, like when we were
He didn't
younger
start
and we
going
would
out
go
till
out.
he was 26.
He never did any
26,
of that.
mind?
He, but he wasn't interested in it either. Do you know what I mean? It was little.
Focus on
Yeah.
things like.
Yeah, so it would be like the odd party here, the odd party there. That's the only time he would really go out and socialise. Like.
You know, but in that period of time, he was a really good, keen footballer. He was a great coach. You know, I used to love working with him. I was there just to keep order. He'd order me about. I'm thinking, shut up, no, like. We'd be cat and dog on the touchline. But he'd put so much weight on. He had that knee injury. He was in bed for 3 months. I ended up, buying him an automatic car. So he could just, when he knew he had a car, then he was right.
Yeah.
He'd have his brace on, and he could still drive. He had a little Nissan Micra, it was automatic. So great, he was out back and forward, he was doing this, that and the other. But he just piled loads of weight on over a period of years. You look at some of the old photos of Alex, he was 18 stone. After what he went through, and we put him into therapy, he changed his appearance.
Yeah, and I think that's from that day we took him up the crisis team to just before he died. I think he was a completely different person, and I think that weight loss started for him when he realised that he was fine. He realised that he was going to be all right, and he needed to do it. And
type of time frame was that then, from the point that you go to the crisis team to the point that eventually then he
I think the crisis team was August, wasn't it?
Yeah, and
or
it was
July or August, but it was like, no, it was nearly just under 2 years.
Yeah.
Just under 2 years. I always say he had the best 2 years of his life.
Yeah.
He did make mistakes along the way, but like sometimes he'd go down, but like we knew where he was. I knew it went, Alex, so did she. And you know, when he did go down, he'd do something daft, or it would be no harm in it. He was just, perhaps he was looking for that little bit more.
He didn't want the attention of us, really, did he?
Right.
Yeah.
He wanted the attention of someone else.
Yeah. But like, when he went in, like you said, he changed his appearance. Then he hit the gym. Like, quick, Flexi Fit. They're family to us because the way they treated Alex and the way they were with him.
Yeah.
They were amazing. That gym, I can't thank them enough. Honestly, they're fabulous guys. If somebody asks me, can you recommend a gym, I'm going to say Flexi Fit. I know how many gyms is around here.
Yeah.
And they've kept by their word. You know, they've done so much for us after Alex. You know, when you don't get that, it's loyal. They're very loyal boys. And to be honest with you, the gym, obviously Rob, all of them, they've become close friends to me. And they're always at the other side of a phone for us, do you know what I mean? They've always, you know, it's been a bit crazy, to be honest, and I've never been in the gym, do you know what I mean? The only time I went in the gym was when I went to fill my water bottle up, you know?
And I think as well, like with the boys in the gym and Flexi Fit, sorry, there's a picture of Alex, I don't know if you've seen it, he's in Flexi Fit and he's holding a weight or a bag or something, and it's a really lovely picture of him, and
we didn't know, did we?
We use it a lot, so if we like doing matches or fundraising, that's the picture we use. And
We didn't know about it. Like.
we didn't realise the significance of it until we were in Alex's funeral and we were talking about it. And Rob said to me, "Oh, we took that picture because the weight that Alex is holding is the actual body weight that he'd lost." And we were like,
he
"Oh
was,
my God, that's
he
amazing!"
was on the day he died.
Crazy.
He had the build up from the Monday and whatever. He had signed for Red Lion.
Yeah.
His first game was Saturday, am I right? Mm-hmm. If I'm right, I think it was either that or whatever it was. He drank. I got boots in my garage. There's 2 container fulls. He had rang her and said, "I'm going up. I need to get new studs for my boots." Takes these boots up. He didn't go up with studs. He went up with new boots. Didn't you?
Yeah, I went up with him. He always used to rope me into going up the retail park, and he'd be like, "Oh, I'm just going up for this," and then we'd end up in all the shops. I'm giving him fashion advice, and I'm thinking, I've worked all day, I just want to get in. And he's like, "What do you think of this?" And he was like, "Oh, I need new studs. Come on, let's go up and have a look." I was like, "Right, okay." And then he's trying on all these boots, and I was like, "I know where this is going via now." And he was trying all these boots on. He's like, "Oh, I got a game on Saturday," and I was like, "Right, okay, whatever." But he just loved it. He loved looking at rubbish, basically.
You know, he was. I said in his funeral, Alex was a routine man. You know, he'd always had some kind of routine. But the last 3 years of his life was routine with him. He'd go to Tesco's. He'd ring me at 7:30, "Do you need milk or bread?" I'd get that every night. He'd be sitting in my house at 10 to 8. Every night. Yeah. And that's it.
And we knew that... I could tell you his routine. It would be, he'd finish work, he'd go to Flexi Fit, then he'd go to TK Maxx, he'd ring me saying, "Do I want anything up the retail park?" And I'd say no. "Do I need anything in Tesco's?" No. Then he'd get to Tesco's, ring him to see if he needed anything in Tesco's, and then he'd be home. And that was his routine every night. I've never known anyone to be in TK Maxx so much.
Well, I questioned this. I remember ringing Gemma and I saying, "He's got a fucking girl on
he
the
kept
boat,
saying he's got a
I'm going to
girlfriend."
follow him tomorrow. And that was me. I'm inquisitive. Like, you know.
I was like, "No, he's definitely just a
I said,
TK
"You
Maxx."
have." I said, "He's disappearing." But little did we know, he was actually helping somebody at the time. And he was spending a bit of time with them. And
They would just sit in a car park, just talking.
Wow.
so we are getting all these stories now. I'm like, yes. Serious. You know, but he changed his appearance, changed his weight. He'd done a couple of training sessions with James Walters, and James loves him playing. James will tell you. James have known him since he's probably 8 or 9. Him and Jack Walters brought up together. And they both can play. You watch Jack, do you know what I mean? And it was... And then he just changed everything, even his clothes. He had his little black earrings. He had... his hairstyle, you know. Alex was ginger. Well, you couldn't tell him that, though. Oh, well, you tell him that, he'd go off on one. You know, but he was, like, we found out he'd become like a role model, like, that's the word to use. And we do this, you know, it's like, I've been accused, I'm doing this for a name. Well, no, I'm not. You know, I do this because I don't want people in my situation. It's the worst, shittiest situation you can ever be in. You know, people were worried. People getting phone calls who were close to me saying, "That's the end of Paul." That's what we had to put up with. That's the end of Paul. Well, and they were saying, "Well, no, it's not, because Gemma's here."
And I think that morning, because I was in Gloucester Christmas shopping, and I didn't know. When he rang me, I was like, "I don't think this is real." And I got into the apartment and I ended up ringing my uncle. And as soon as he picked up the phone, and I was like, "Right, I know that it's real now." And I got in, and my house was just full. There was people everywhere, and I was like, "Right, what's happening?" And I think the next couple of days are a blur, but all I remember is just people coming in and being like, "Right, what do we do?" And we were like, "Well, we don't know." And then literally, I think from that morning, we knew that it wasn't going to go any other way than like this. We knew that we were going to mention Alex's name every opportunity we could. We knew we were going to try and help other families not go through what we went through. And we knew that because of the people in our house. We couldn't do any of this without any of them, but we couldn't do it without each other either.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There was no other opportunity or no other option for us than to keep going, you know.
Everything, if you go, I go a week before his death. Monday, normal day. Told the coroner all this. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, comes downstairs. Bear in mind it's freezing. He's looking out because they forecast snow. And we're going to get the gym. He got a rear, you know what I mean? He thought, I got a 4-wheel drive. Straight downstairs. What's the chance of him insuring that me or new car? I said, none whatsoever. I said, because I said, the insurance is up now in a month. I said, I'm going to be changing. I said, and I'll do it then. Yeah, see, he said, I know what you want it for. I said, just in case you can't get to the gym. And school. I said, they don't open the school in the snow, not in the Gurness. So anyway, this is our story now.
Yeah.
This is where it all started to go wrong for us.
Let me ask you something. Do you ever feel like you're capable of more, but something keeps on holding you back? That's where Phil comes in. Phil is a professional master coach and a master practitioner in NLP, timeline therapy and hypnotherapy with years of real-world experience building and growing businesses. His passion is simple: helping you reimagine your life or your business, break through limitations and build unstoppable momentum for good. Whether you want a powerful one-off session or ongoing support where Phil walks you through every step of the way, everything is tailored to you and your goals. If you're ready for real, lasting change, Phil might be exactly who you've been looking for. To find out more on what Phil does, just visit philhanlon.com for more information.
He's online doing all his quotes using my email address. My phone is pinging. I'm looking at all this shit. I'm thinking, he's serious about this now. So I thought, I'll just leave him carry on and it'll be fine. He was a great driver. It didn't bother me. So that was Thursday. Quite a normal day. Friday, I get a phone call. Don't forget, you taking me down the Pentra Bar Club 5:45. I said, Al. I said, I haven't forgot. I said, I'll be in the house by 5:30. Because I finished work at 5:30. Norma goes down. I had a quick cup of tea. I dropped him off, 5:45. Normal day. Nothing. Goes out. I'm texting Alex all night, mind. He's texting me. I'm texting him. It was about the football. You can see my phone. I can show you my phone. And it was, can you do me a favour? Check I've knocked the straighteners or something on them lines off. Something like that. I don't know what it was. I thought, you never knock anything fucking off anyway, so it doesn't matter. When he was sleeping, right, I had to go in and knock everything off. Because he just leave everything on. Telly, everything. He didn't give a shit. That's the way he was. Yeah. You know, but that's the way I lived with him. I wouldn't have changed that for the world. Yeah. And normal, and I knew he'd be late because every time he went out with them, he was late. You know, he went to a works retirement do, and he said, brilliant night. He said this, that, and the other. So I fell asleep. I woke up, and as I woke up, I went out to the kitchen to get a glass of water or a cup of tea, whatever. He come in. He'd had a few. I could see that. And it was just normal. And he went in the fridge, grabs 2 Welsh cakes and a pint of squash. So I said, I better go to bed. I'm covering you tomorrow, because I was covering him. Football. Yeah. Of course, I was supposed to leave at 8:30. I slept late, gets up at 8:10. But before that, I'd gone upstairs with him, and I thought, I'm going in here now to make sure everything's off, because he's not going to check. He's standing by the bed. One thing Alex always did, you do it as well, and that goes back to years and years where the 3 of us were always together. They always made their beds. I do it now, you know, and the beds are always made in a certain way, you know, because that's me. Yeah. But he did it. It's the only thing he ever done. He didn't do nothing else. Do you know what I mean? You'd have a sock there, a shoe there. Do you know what I mean? That's the way he was. He that was his domain, and whatever mess he made, it was his problem. That's the way he was. So I went in, I seen him undress, put his grey tracksuit bottoms on, top on, everything. I was like, oh, normal. Do you know what I mean? I had no concerns. trust me, if I had the concerns, I wouldn't have left him. I would have sat there.
Yeah.
If anybody can say that game is off in the morning, it's me.
Yeah.
And that's it. And so I went to bed. I slept late. I didn't go across the landing. Sometimes I question myself on that. But then I just said to you, why should I do that? I didn't have any concerns. No. So I just come downstairs, quick cup of tea, off I goes. Gets all the way to Annecia. Pitch is covered in snow. The coach said, I thought he would have thawed, Paul. I said, thawed? I said, it's like Alaska up there, man. Ref come over, he's off. So I left there probably 9:25. Hit a bit of traffic, walked back in my house at 10 o'clock. Grabbed my stuff, because I had like red light and stuff on. I was actually going to London with Cinderford Town at 11 o'clock. I was picking Matthew up, going to London. Well, of course, I'd left there early, so there was no issues with the timings. We were going to be on time, and so I drove all the way back to Merthyr, grabbed the defib. I carry defib with me. Grabbed my defib, grabbed my medical bag, walks in the house, puts him on the settee. Remember leaving the dogs out? Put him on the settee, right? Didn't think anything of it. I even changed all my clothes from Red Lion to Cinderford. Yeah? Done that. Still no concerns. I'm sitting down now, made myself a cup of tea, having a cup of tea, sitting down, watching the TV. I didn't think nothing of it. So I thought, I knew I'd seen his van there. I had no concerns. Lucky, really, I thought, I'll go up and tell him, no, I'm going. Because I wasn't getting back till 12 o'clock that night. Right. Like 11, 12 o'clock. And he goes upstairs, and I walks in the bedroom. The bed is made. But I'd seen him getting in there. And I'm thinking, what the fuck's he? Turn round, bang, there's my world gone. I'm just fucking... I'm on the phone to my mate. And I said, you're not going to fucking believe this. And I told him, he was having running commentary this. I threw the phone on the bed. I actually threw that phone on the bed. But what I didn't realise, I hadn't cut him off. Right. I runs to the next bedroom to get my brother, who'd worked late and couldn't get in, so he stayed with me. Right? Both of us goes in. I grabs him, puts him in on the floor, says to Belle, run downstairs, my defib and everything's there. There's nothing worse than shocking your own son. I shocked Alex 3 times that night, that morning. 3 times. CPR. We were there for 10, 15 minutes. Lucky, really, the paramedics were there straight away. You could see that I was shocking him. I'm highly trained with stuff like that. And I'm thinking, come on. And I'm giving running commentary, but I didn't realise what was going on the phone. I cut it off then. Paramedic came in, she looked at him, done this, done that, and she said, stop, I can't do nothing. My fucking world crumbled. I didn't think nothing of it. I knew she wasn't here. And I'm thinking, this is a fucking dream, like. It's got to be a dream. And I'm thinking, this isn't happening. Next thing you know then, the word must have got out within 10 minutes. There's fucking people flocking in my house. My brother's there. My brother was there within minutes. Because obviously he had a brilliant relationship with Alex. He worked for him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was it. Police come in. And I'm thinking, this is not fucking happening, man. I was fucking with him last night. He's done all this. But what I didn't realise then, obviously, he started to insure my Jeep for himself. And there was loads of other things. Like, on the Monday, we got a delivery of fucking gym stuff, didn't we? He'd ordered 5:15 on the Friday.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that was most difficult for me to wrap my head around, is that he had plans, and not future plans, not like, this time next year I'm going to move to Australia.
But there was like immediate plans.
Yeah, he had plans with one of his friends on the Saturday to watch the football, and then on Tuesday me and him were going to go to Macarthur Glen to do our Christmas shopping, which we did every year. And I already knew what time he was picking me up, because like we said, he was so regimented. He was like, right, I'll be outside your work at this time. And it was really hard to believe that,
he's gone from being the person he was to where he was now.
And the plans he had with me and with his plans on the Saturday he had with his friends, like, I know that if there was two people he wouldn't let down, it'd be me and his friend.
Yeah.
I knew that. And the last text I had off Alex was off on the Friday night when he was out, because he'd had a tattoo and he'd sent me a picture. And he said, I've cling filmed it now. He's like, but I'll send you a picture
That was
tomorrow.
on the Thursday, you had the tattoo, wasn't it?
yes.
I remember I got the photo of him.
Yeah, on
and
the-
I'd done a live photo.
No,
so
that was a different one.
Oh, was
that
it?
was one on his back. Yes,
'Cause
he,
I got-
he had one
yeah.
on. He had one on the Friday, and he said, like, this is the picture of it, but it's all covered in cling film. He's like, I'll send you a better one tomorrow, and I'll give you a ring. And the last text I've got off Alex is him saying, I'll show you tomorrow. And then tomorrow I was walking into an absolute
Carnage.
world crumbler,
bedlam.
like, yeah.
Carnage. But then, you know, it was... I looking back at the situation that I was in, I had to stay in that bedroom and explain where I'd got, where I'd moved and what I had done. And I felt fucking rigid, you know. I guess I'll go on to that part. But you know, from me leaving that bedroom, I had the same mobile phone as Alex. We were both the same. And I grabbed the wrong phone.
Right, okay.
It was on the bed. Yeah, you know, I'm quite open. I want people to know our story, because in case somebody who's going to be in Alex's position can fucking think and say, I can get help.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It is out there, through people like Gemma and myself, through the likes of Signposted Cymru, Darren, the help, you know what I mean? But like, just check in on people.
Yeah.
You know, I'm one of these people now, like I said, I grabbed the wrong phone. You can imagine what it was like. I was just looking like this, thinking,
Catatonic.
you know, come downstairs.
the
I walks in
adrenaline
my
is
house,
really
because I'd been up there for about 15, 20 minutes, mind. I had to stay there. Come downstairs, and I'm walking past all these people, all the Red Lion boys, treasurer, secretary, they were all there. Do you know what I mean? All my mates, my family, everyone was there. I had to push my way past them to the kitchen. You know, and I walking in there, and I'm seeing my brother leaning against the utility room, and he's just buckled like this, and I'm thinking...
And what was happening as well is, obviously we live on the main road.
Yeah.
Football is first thing in the morning, and we had
it was
coaches from the Red
ambulances.
Lion driving past, seeing all the ambulances, seeing the police, and they were just throwing their cars on the road and coming in and saying what's wrong.
It was harrowing. And then, if that wasn't enough, the aftermath of that, it was, like I said, I grabbed that wrong phone. In hindsight, it was a good grab then.
Yeah.
You know, but then, in another way, it wasn't. Because I'm on autopilot now. I got two coppers each side of me, mind. Two CID men standing next door to them. I got a pile of family and friends behind me, all watching what I'm doing. And the phone rang. Oh, I answered. Hello? Who's that? I said, it's Paul. You can clearly hear of 10 people behind me will tell you the conversation, my brother included. Hello? Put Alex on. So I said, who the fuck are you? He said, put Alex on. He said, who are you? I said, I'm Alex's father. And he said, put him on. I said, I can't, he's dead. Dead. Phone goes dead. I goes like that, pulls his phone down from my ear, seeing messages being deleted off Messenger and off a phone number. Right? I could see him delete, hundreds of them, as far as I was concerned. And I said to the police, I said, whoever that was, I said, I don't know who it was, but they deleted messages. And the main one for me was, I turned round and said, do you remember? I turned round and said, and everybody heard me saying it, whoever this is has got two phones. But I'd seen the one name.
Yeah.
Like I said, I then said to my brother, go and find out who that is. I had seen the name on Messenger. He comes back within 5 minutes. A copper, they're taking the phone off me, put it on airplane mode and said, we'll look into this. They can't delete any more messages.
Yeah, they can't retrieve them.
So I don't know the way I felt then. One way I wanted to go and just smash his fucking face in, to be quite truthful. You know, after all that, and I'm thinking, what's going on here, like? You know, where's this story going? So Alex is gone. I've just had that phone call. I got South Wales Police telling me they're going to do this.
And you're under, basically as well, you're under a magnifying glass.
Yeah.
It's like you're living in like a
Yeah,
zoo
it was like a
almost.
bubble
Kind
for
of-
me.
Yeah, you're being
It's
locked
like
up by
they were-
everybody.
Yeah, it's like an out-of-body experience, isn't it?
But that was just the beginning. It's just the beginning. And then we found out who it was. I don't pull any punches. I tell people their names. I won't say it here. But if somebody wants to speak to them
Yeah.
or speak to me, I'll tell you who they are. There is no law that I can't tell people who was involved in that. I've already checked that. He can say and she can what they like. I'm not interested in what they think. No interest whatsoever. To me, this will happen again.
Yeah.
They'll do it to somebody else. But then the story started coming out. But I didn't realise the people who were involved, you knew about, didn't you, the one? The female?
Yeah, I did. So I've had conversations with Alex before about how sometimes she made him feel a little bit uncomfortable when she was talking, and I'm just doing this because this person's asked, or I'm just helping. So I was already aware of the kind of relationship between, well, not relationship because it wasn't a relationship, but the friendship that they formed.
But that friendship was formed because she sent him a
Because she was
text
struggling.
over something bad had happened to her. Alex knew everything about him. That was trouble for them pair then. But like, so we found out this and the other. In the end, anyway, police were there. We talking, the indicator goes 3 o'clock because I waited for Gemma. And you're walking upstairs, the family's walking up, and you've got a sergeant leaning against the bedroom door, eating chewing gum on his phone, while my son is lying there. And then you're walking in, people are going in, people wanted to see him, family mainly. There was loads of my friends wanted to see him because they've been around him for years. And there was just so much disbelief.
Yeah, I think people needed to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because I know that was definitely the case for me, and I think everyone else was the same. And I think for some people, when they were walking in that day, they could tell by the looks on our faces that it was real. But then I think for other people, they just needed to see it to believe it. Like,
But yeah. I think it's a mix.
Yeah,
And I think
it's-
it's a mix almost of it's almost like a morbid curiosity.
Yeah.
In that you need it validated
Yeah.
because you
It
can't
was
put the two
process.
together.
yeah.
It was, so, you know, you're dealing with that, and you've got a copper then leaning against the door on his phone. And that's been picked up by people who actually are quite high up, lecturers. I got a mixture of friends, and they were like, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
You know, he was supposed to be the investigating officer on the case. He was an acting sergeant.
Yeah.
The youngster who came with him, part of me felt sorry for him. But as the time was going on, I thought, you know what, balls to you, mate. Honestly, you're just a nightmare, you haven't got a clue. I had to fill and give a statement on an iPhone. I couldn't even see it properly. You know, and I'm just lost for words. Like, South Wales Police, they advertise the good talks, being supported by liaison officers. They told me they haven't got any. We asked for one. We haven't got one, have we? We've been totally shut down. On the Tuesday after the death, I get a phone call, coroner's office. She was lovely with us when she helped us. And in the conversation, she said, this is what we're going to do now, Paul. And I said, right. So I said, what's happening with the threats on his phone? She said, what do you mean? They hadn't even reported them to her. Straight away then, she said, I'm going to get on to that now, and I want his phone investigated. She'd gone to the coroner. The coroner said, I want the phone, the iPad, and the computer. I want them all investigated to get these men. Because we didn't know the PIN number.
Yeah.
We want them investigated. Up until that point, she knew nothing about it. Again, a catalogue of errors.
A failure.
Yeah.
Process failure.
So that was the end of that conversation. Nothing off the police, nothing at all for weeks. I was nagging him to come and take this statement off me, to put the complaint in with regards to Alex being threatened. And there was nothing, and in the end, I can show you the text. If somebody wants to see the proof, it's all on my phone. You know, sorry, can't come and take a statement, we got prisoners. Sorry, my last day today and I'm off for 6. 5 months later, they come and took out statements.
And I think, like, so for me, I'm not a very confrontational person. I'm very accommodating, like having a conversation, civil. But there was one time I really...
Blew it, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. And we were trying to have a conversation with them about... We had to do, like, an antecedent statement where we had to, like, give a bit of Alex so they could have a background and see what was in character or out of character. And that took months for us to do. And you know, we were like trying to get things sorted, put everything in place, and we had his funeral, but then we still had all this stuff lingering on in the background. And we were like, when are we going to do this? When are we going to do that? When are we going to do this? And the one turned on and said to me, Alex just isn't a priority. And I can just remember thinking, honestly, for you, but for us, he was our world. It was like, we've got pictures of you for him. He's on the shelf there. And you were just telling me that he's not a priority. I was like, this is probably going to take an hour of your day. But for us, it's going to start it's going to start our journey.
We live with this
closure.
every day of the week. Like, people say to me, I don't know how you do this, what we do. I don't know how you cope with it. You got to.
Yeah.
You have to.
You know, but
it doesn't go away.
No, you know,
it's there 24/7 with me. I didn't sleep for 6 nights after what I seen. 6 nights. I sat there. And my brother was the same. And we were just like zombies, me and him. And we were just like...
Yeah. And there's probably as well an element of kind of psychological
and it wouldn't
torment
go,
as well.
It wouldn't go away, Mark.
If I'd
if I
gone down the landing, if I'd done this, if I'd done that, if I'd hung on 2 minutes.
You know, it was for 6, 7, 8 days. I think on the 9th day, the Undertaker said we could go and see him. He was in the travel arrest. I hadn't slept. You could tell that, couldn't you? You could see that he'd really taken his toll on me, like. And it's like... The garage where I worked in, the boys, Fishy, they were marvellous with me. Like, you know, all of them, they were doing shopping for us. It was just the community spirit behind us. I shouldn't use the word spirit, but I'm going to. Because they turning up with food for us, ringing up, do you need this, do you need that? But like I said to you on the Monday after the death, come on, Jen, we'll go up the bank, we need to get out there. I said, we cannot sit there and just leave this, just chew away at us until we know the truth.
And I think one thing for me is that I keep going back to the couple of days after it happened, and I think obviously that Saturday I can't remember much. I can't remember anything. I can't even remember how I felt. But the couple of days after that, and with the more we kind of started doing things, it made me realise that we weren't the only ones to lose him, because everyone was affected by it. It was all over social media. And the posts that were coming in and the cards through the door and the conversations with people, I was just like people were like crying to me and they were like, I'm so sorry that I'm crying to you, and I'm like, no, do it, like, you know, it's good that we can.
It was like I rang Darren on the Monday and I hadn't seen Darren for a couple of years. But Darren come over the house and you could see he was physically upset with it. But then we find out that him and Alex were like mates, texting each other and
support, like,
you know,
because Alex was using Instagram a lot for his fitness journey, and so Darren would be like, oh, well done, amazing, you look great. And
you know, when you go back to that morning with like South Wales Police, and it was just a shambles, a shit show. I hope to God, touch wood, that nobody's put in my position that morning, because with them, Chief Superintendent, if you're listening, train you people.
And I think
because they haven't got a clue.
Yeah, and I think that's what was quite clear as well, is that Alex was a statistic for them.
There
was no person behind that. And you know, and even with the things with the phones and the messages, they they didn't really want to look into that because they've just looked at it. A 28-year-old young male is taking his own life in a area like Merthyr. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think that even if, and this is a bit of an out there one, I suppose, even if there was still incompetencies, so there's still a level of incompetency, but there was still a compassion, do you think it would have been somewhat, not easier to deal with, but that you would have kind of, well, at least they care. They may not be doing a great job, but at least they care. But the problem is, not only are they not doing a good job, they also don't really care.
Our point was, yes, we have never, ever, in 1 second through all this, said to anybody that Alex did not commit suicide.
Yeah.
We admit that. That has never been our argument. I even told the coroner it.
Yeah.
And he said, oh yeah, I agree with you and all that. But there was a threat level there.
Yeah.
I'll leave Gemma answer this one. Why is Alex gone, Gem?
Yeah. Because of their messages.
Yeah, and
Alex,
why? Because he was what?
Threatened.
And what's the word you use normally?
Scared.
Scared.
So Alex wasn't
Scared.
depressed. He wasn't anxious during
He was
any
alive
of
at
these 2
20 to
years.
9.
He's not you because he was scared.
Yeah.
Because he received their messages and just panicked and was like,
Pure
oh my
panic.
goodness, I don't know what
That
to do
triggered
with this.
him. That was the trigger mechanism. Everybody has that trigger
And
mechanism.
that was, in his mind, the only way out and to deal with it was to do what he did that morning because he wasn't depressed. He was applying for uni courses.
Yeah.
He was applying for the police.
Yeah, because
He just done a camper van out because he bought the van, and I remember saying to him, I am not doing the inside of that. If you want to get it done, you do it yourself. My tools are in the garage. Everything's in there you need. I'll do all the mechanical, which I did, didn't I? And he'd done the inside of that van, right? And I used to drive past him in the dinner hour, and I'd watch him, and the sweat be pissing out of him. And I'd look at him and thought, I'm not going over there now, because he'll have me doing something. All this carpet was going to your house, wasn't it? All this sound deadening. I thought, I'll be a fucking mess on this now. He turns up, I hadn't looked in her. I seen him doing it. I thought, I'm not going over there now because he'll have me doing something. And I remember me and Fishy are standing by the door. I think we were having a cup of tea. And he came in and Phil and all them, they thought the fucking world of him because that's the way he was with them. And he said, Phil, I finished my camper. And I think, no, it's going to have a look. He opened the fucking door, me and Fishy like this. He put fucking tongue and groove.
Yeah. He was a perfectionist, he was. And if it wasn't
groove?
right...
Is this the van I'm using now? I'll never get rid of it.
No.
He put tongue and groove. He boarded it all. It's all carpeted.
His lights
He had a
were-
table fixed to the back door. Oh, he even put all his logs in it to have a fire. he made all awnings. He positioned the stickers, what they call them, the rubber hooks on the windscreen inside, so he could put his curtains up.
Across.
He had made all the poles, so he had an extended awning.
Yeah.
But then that's, but again, that's
A long-term plan, isn't it?
it is.
Yeah.
And it's also then it's that's what disconnects, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
then you think,
That's where we can't. This is why.
why do you go to all that trouble?
Yeah.
To then
With
do
no
the-
intention of being here to enjoy it.
Do you think that, and this is no easy? Well, I don't know how easy a question it's going to be to answer. The individuals in question, do you think it would do anything whatsoever, anything, if they even admitted, listen, that there were, that there may be some degree of fault?
Well, yeah, because we know.
on our part. Do you think there'd be any sort of thing where you'd say, well, right, okay, well, that's something?
Yeah,
Or
I've
do you
sat
think
here tonight
there's just
and
too
said.
much has happened, and too much has happened as a result?
Yeah, I've sat here tonight and said there was nothing wrong with Alex at the time of his death.
Yeah.
He was triggered. That trigger was the threats. There was numerous missed calls. He said 1 or 2. But it was more. I seen him. I even fucking spoke to him.
Yeah.
But he even lied about the way I spoke to him. That conversation, what I just said to you, I can't put him on, he's dead, he hung up on me. He reckons he apologised to me. Oh, I'm sorry. Fucking bollocks. He didn't say nothing. He just looked, he was just done. He also went on to say that he had taken the phone off Mrs. X at 8 o'clock. That goes, the police had told me Alex had been dead all night. When I had Alex, I wouldn't, if Alex had been there all night, I don't put my heating on all night, right? I'm tight. Right? No, we don't need it because I'm not cold, never cold. And, well, I am now after the heart attack, like, but, it's just going to be horrid me saying this, but Alex was boiling. We know he was alive at 20 to 9.
Yeah.
So why are the South Wales Police telling me he had a watch on? We've asked them to look at that.
Yeah.
They haven't. I've got the phone, the watch back. They never came for his computer, never came for his iPad. We seen him twice in 18 months. Twice. We corrected all the statements. I even then said to him, I'd like to press charges for the Malicious Communication Act. Can't do that because Alex is dead.
And it kind of goes back to what you asked earlier. It's like with the South Wales Police and the compassion.
Yeah.
There wasn't any compassion, but no one like sat down with us and said, right, this has happened. We're going to do this, 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 and this. This is the process. This is how things are done. This is what we're going to do. There was none of that. There was us following up.
Do you think that you'll ever have something that resembles justice?
No.
No.
The only justice that I'll ever have is that prick got to look at me every time he passes me.
And even I think like with social media, Alex's face every couple of weeks is plastered
It's just
everywhere.
everywhere. That has got to haunt him.
It's everywhere.
Yeah,
You know, but like, you know, he said he went here for 4 hours and this, that, and he decided to delete messages at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But yet in my statement, I just said it to you, he was deleting messages. I think it was 12 on Alex's phone.
Which were even for someone who isn't, criminally trained would kind of indicate that
there's something they wanted to hide.
Some sort of guilt or something that you don't want someone seeing.
You know, the detective who was standing next door to me, right, and the copper, denied during the conversation with me on the phone to him. But yet there's 10 other people. They said they'd go and speak to them. They never did. I said to him in the inquest, don't forget, we had to suffer this for 19 months, didn't we? 19 months. Don't forget, the aftermath of that, Alex is still registered as alive, only in certain places that we could know of. Alex was a digital person. Everything's on that phone. I literally had to wait for letters to come through on his name saying he'd missed a payment. And then phone him up and explain the situation. And I'm thinking, I don't want to be doing this.
Which again, you're having to do all the time.
Yeah.
So it's just like reliving it all the time.
They carried on. You're still getting stuff 19 months after.
Yeah.
You know, it's like people were really good. But the best ones of all, who I felt supported, was Tesco Mobile. Honest to God. Because I asked them, told them the situation I was in. And they said the police have got his phone. The guys, don't forget, Alex had only had that phone a month, and he said, I'm switching it now from a contract phone to pay as you go. I've just put 30 quid on it, so they can't say they're going to access to the phone. Great. I said, is there anybody who deals with this sort of stuff can tell me whether these phone numbers and text messages? He said, I'm part of the bereavement team. So he said, give me I can't go into it, he said, I'll answer you yes or no. I give him the last 3 digits of the phone numbers, and he said there was numerous phone calls made and texts from that phone on that morning. But we knew they didn't start till 8 o'clock. Alex was alive then. Trust me. He was alive at 29, you've seen him.
Yeah, so I was...
South Wales Police are adamant that he'd done that in the night.
Yeah, so I was going to ring him. I was up in Gloucester and I was just going to ring him, and I was on Instagram and someone had sent me something and I clicked on it and I could see that he was green or he was online, and I thought, I'll give him a ring now, and then I got distracted and whatever, and I completely forgot. So I knew that he was alive because I could see that he was active on Instagram because I could see that someone
Yeah.
else had sent me a message and he was up the top as online. And that was in the morning. That was
Yeah.
like, 8:30, 20 to 9.
But he was just, the way everything has unfolded, they weren't called to the inquest. The sergeant who was supposed to be the investigating officer, he weren't called to the inquest. But it didn't stop there. After the inquest, I rang him for his stuff. I left it 4 days. Yeah, it's on its way back to him and all that. Right, fair enough. They rang me, said his stuff was ready. I goes up there, not thinking, grabs it, didn't look, did I? You know what I mean? It's personal stuff now. That's all I've got. I think days later, when the boys had said to me, I'll get the phone open for you. He said, make sure the SIM card is with it. I goes, looks at the phone, they lost the fucking SIM card. I get this sergeant then, a woman, come into my house. Oh, we're awful sorry, he has admitted it. I think when he's unwrapped it, it's fallen on the floor. So you're admitting it? Yeah. She then puppies me up. So she thinks. Nobody will puppy me up. Telling me I'm going to get the DCI to reopen his case. I haven't fucking seen her since. So, this is just, I don't know. But like, I want people to hear this story because there's other people out there going through it. And if somebody is going through it, please contact me.
Yeah.
And if you've had the same problems with South Wales Police, let's change it. Let's do something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I got to live with this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I drive past certain people and I'm thinking, I just look at them.
Yeah.
You know, I don't stop going out. I can go wherever I want. You know, but our lives have changed forever. And what support do we had? Nothing.
Nothing from the
We-
people you think you should have
Well,
the support.
Yeah.
I call them the governing bodies.
The frontliners.
Yeah.
Well, the irony, isn't it, is even from being a child, when you're in school, you're taught, if you've ever got a problem, or something bad's happened, you go and speak to the police, because the police will help you.
Yeah.
So then I suppose then when you kind of have that situation, and as you said, Paul, it's a kind of a catalogue of one after the other after the other.
And it just kept on hitting us.
You know, and kind of even the thoughtlessness of just, he's not a priority.
Yeah.
It's that kind of just having the awareness, the emotional intelligence to think, well, I am speaking now to,
It was-
Yeah.
someone's sister.
And I think like when you look at it, really we've been failed twice because we were failed that day when we took Alex up to the crisis team and they told us to contact Signposted Cymru who helped us, and then we were failed all over again when Alex wasn't you, and the only people who really helped us was Darren and Signposted Cymru again. But why should we rely on a charity
Yeah.
to help us when we've got people who this is their job?
Yeah.
Every
know what I mean?
statement we had off the police, there was something. And the last one we received, it got worse. They'd even now rung a certain person. I haven't spoke to him about this, but I'm not going to mention his name. He's quite close to me. In fact, he's like family to me. He had come down the house when he heard about it, right? And we get a police statement mentioning his name. The police had actually rung him, and he had turned round and said to him, on the lines of, oh, whoa, hang on, where's this going? I'll come down and see you lot now. He's my mate. Remember that? And they'd put his name in the third statement. I didn't know nothing about that, neither did she. You know, there was just so much in them statements. Why would we want to lie?
Yeah.
That's my answer.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for that. If he's got any bollocks, come down and knock my door. Come down and knock my door. I'm quite a calm person. And tell me what happened that morning. Because I want to know what happened to Alex.
Yeah.
And at this moment in time, he's the only fucker that can tell me.
Yeah.
And I'm quite angry about that. I'm sure if I was in that position, I'd go knock somebody's door and say, look, I can help you to put this to bed.
Yeah, because what closure have we got?
We
got
haven't.
Well, yeah.
We haven't got anything.
You know?
But I
It's-
suppose, like you talk about kind of a legacy and Alex's kind of inherent want to help others.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good opportunity to kind of explain now what you guys are doing, and have been involved with, obviously for a while, but kind of really kick-started very recently.
Yeah.
So, do you want to have a bit of a spotlight, I suppose, on the hashtag Meek6 Hub?
Yeah,
which
so
is
that
awesome.
the fundraising, I think, almost started
With
by
Darren,
accident. Is a complete accident it was. And every year Darren from Signposted Cymru does an Advent challenge, and that year his challenge was to climb Pen y Fan every day for the month of December. And when Alex passed away and Darren came in to the house, I remember he walked in and there was a house full, and we were just looking at each other and we didn't know what to do. And when Darren was speaking, I think
he answered a lot of questions.
Really, and people felt really reassured, and he calmed a lot of whatever we were feeling. And
he couldn't believe it himself.
Yeah,
he was just shocked
as well.
Yeah.
And when he was going up Pen y Fan, there was a couple of people who were joining him, so I think I went up a couple of times.
I went up once or twice.
He went up, and he would put on
there.
social media, and people who knew Alex would meet him in the car park and go up. And when we were going out then, during that time, so it was the 1st of December, I think it was you went somewhere.
I couldn't sleep,
to the
so
shop
I went.
Or no, you went to the shop or something, and someone was just giving
money.
They just gave a £20 note and said, just give this to the charity. And we were like, we don't know what to do. And so it was happening like a little bit more then. So I set up a Just Giving page, and I think within the first couple of days we'd had 5-6 grand because people didn't know what to do. They were just happy to give money at it.
It's crazy.
And so we set it up for Darren, and I think that built another community then. So we've got little pockets of people everywhere, and then we all become something because of Alex. And so we had that first initial Just Giving page that was set up, and it did really well. And then one of Darren's pillars and ethos is physical activity, and he kept on floating things like the Welsh 3 Peaks and stuff like that. And I think because Alex had lost all this weight recently, kind of people were like, well, we know that that's something that Alex would have been all over if he had the opportunity. And so we
were
just
walking.
doing...
It was. I could do Pen y Fan at the time. I was healthy. We were doing. You get people ringing us. Can you put it on social media where you're walking from? So I'd be with Manby Fat Boys, Coffee, Dylan. I'd be with all them. We'd be walking round. What's it called? Pond Stick Res, 4 o'clock in the morning.
And so
there was kids joining us.
Yeah, what would happen is because Darren was going up Pen y Fan every day, and not everyone with work commitments and kids, the people just couldn't get up there. So we were meeting in the college car park. Right, So if you weren't going up Pen y Fan, you'd meet in the college car park on a weeknight, and we would just walk a little loop round down to Abercarned, back up on the main street and finish back
past
there.
The house.
If we didn't go up Pen y Fan. But then we would go to Pond Stick and don't run the res and everything, and I remember walking around there and thinking, what the hell are we doing? It's pelting down with rain, it's pitch black, but there was like 30 odd of us.
Up, and you take, can you put the itinerary on for the week's walk? I'm thinking, so did it help us? Probably, because we got other things we are concentrating on while we are still in orbit, wondering why the fuck this is happening. And then,
but knowing that that's what they're thinking as well. Like there's people there who are thinking and feeling exactly the same as what we were. And then so from that walking group then and the work we did with Darren, we opened up a hub in the Red House, and so we'd have people sitting in there. If anyone needed immediate support, Darren used to sit in there, and then that's where we would walk from then. Every Wednesday, I think it was. Then obviously the Red House shut, so we were just trying to do things as regular as we could, and then that's when we started doing things like the 3 Peaks, and I think we had 3 groups of 20 who did the Welsh 3 Peaks one year. So he had a group with the Red Lion and miscellaneous. We were all doing it.
Unfortunately,
And
I couldn't make our one.
Some of us didn't
I
know
had a
each
freaking
other.
heart attack, didn't I?
Yeah, so he had an heart attack a couple of days before, which
I
I
had to
think
put a
is
sick note in mind.
a wild excuse not to try and get out of it, isn't it?
But
you're trying to get away with not going.
Merthyr's the type of place, you go back to the heart attack. I changed my life in 5 months. I had to twice. Losing Alex, fucking 5 months later, I'm in intensive care. And you said to him, this won't fucking beat him. I won't even beat me. Will I hell? Not when she's still, yeah? Trust me. And, it's the stress of Alex. So it's got nothing to do with the 60 fags,
The
curries,
lifestyle.
kebabs, 2 packets of chocolate biscuits. Me and my mate used to chat after the heart attack, innit? And he said, I took my top off one night, he worked with me. And his missus said to him, you've lost some weight? He said, I know, he said, I haven't had a chocolate biscuit for fucking 3 months. But like, I need 2 packets a day. My cholesterol level was so high. I'm not saying part of the stress.
No,
but like,
you
it
were
had
already
I was,
yourself.
I'm a walking, ticking time bomb, like. You know, I feel great now. I've got limitations, you know. But what we are doing now, she works really hard at, you know. And Darren, they'll all tell you. You know, our dream was, I can call it a dream because I can't dream of Alex no more, but I can remember him.
Yeah.
And let's open a place in Merthyr. And, you know, we looked into things and I get all these, I'm looking at, I know I shouldn't say it, I'm looking at the fucking statistics now. I'm going to, because my son is a statistic in the wrong word.
Yeah.
In the right capacity, if that makes any sense. And I'm thinking, there's 5 or 6 people in this area in less than 5 months. And at the age and, you know, we try, people say you've got to target people. This can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
It could be any of us sitting here. We could need something next week. So it's in place now, as you know, Mark. You know, we appreciate everything you've been involved with us as well. We got a little group going. Gemma's manning it up. We had a lovely, fantastic meeting yesterday. Obviously, we won't go into it. The future's looking really good for people. You were incredible at what you've done, Gem. You know what I mean? I'm the gobby one. You know, people thought this was the end of me. It's not. It's the fucking beginning.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing in situations like this. It's a tragic reason why we're doing it, but so many people have got the same common goal. Yeah. You know, even though we are doing it because of Alex, but there's people involved are doing it because of us, or there's people doing it because they've struggled with their own mental health. And if we can all come together and make a little bit of a difference, then why bloody not, like, you know, do you know what I mean?
Exactly. And
but like, I'm a mechanic and I've enjoyed it the last 2 weeks. I can struggle with them a bit, mine. Got to be quite honest. You know, I'm doing them exams and I haven't, like, I've watched them, I've listened to everything because I'm quite passionate about it. And in fact, one of my certificates came through today, actually. Yeah, you know, the Meek 6 sub is this year. We got loads of fundraisers. We got one in May. Gemma's doing one in May. You know, we've linked in with Helen at, you know, the charitable trust. You know, every penny we raise is ring fenced to the Meek 6 hub. Yeah. So that means the people are getting the therapy. I've met the therapist. She's lovely. And then yesterday was it yesterday we met? Yeah. We are being told we're going to do bigger than that. We need this around here in his name, Meek 6 Hub. That's going to come. It's going to be open 5 days with proper trained people in there, practitioners. So, you know, that's a plan for, I think he's in the middle of the year. Gemma's working with him now on it. I think she's going to update the group, which obviously she hasn't because we've been flat out. Like, I don't get no money. I sponsor things. I do a lot of sponsoring stuff. You know, like Red Lion plays a massive part in whatever I do. And it's not just because what I do for Red Lion, it's because the boys are passionate about Alex's story. He was their friend.
Yeah, and I think that's, like I was keep saying about the different communities that Alex had, and like the Red Lion was one of the main ones because the kids looked up to him, and seeing the kids go through losing Alex, it was something that I wasn't prepared for.
No.
Like, do you know what I mean? And the way I think the Red Lion family just absolutely wrapped their arms around us in the couple of days, and since then, I've never,
I'm
can never
still
pay anything
around
back
Alex's
to them.
old teams. Man, it had such an effect. I cancelled some of their games, and I think the boys are 16 now, 15, 16, and it was, I think they were just devastated, weren't they? They came back, and of course I had to take over. Of course I had the heart attack, but like I come out of hospital on the Friday, and they had a game on the Monday. It was one of their first ones back, and I thought, I'm fucking going to this, and I did. I walked up and down that touchline, because that's what he would have done, you know, but
I personally never met Alex. But I don't know, like speaking to you now, and one of the sponsors of this kind of season, Stephen George, he goes, I think he still does, go to
Man v Fat, George and Goes,
and he said, and when I said that you were coming on, and when we were in talks of sponsorship and stuff, I was speaking to him, and we would say, I said, we got the Meeks coming on. He just burst into tears. And then when I met up with him, he explained that he wanted to ask Alex how it felt losing his mother at a young age, because he himself has lost his wife and his son. What should he expect from him? What can he do for his son? And I thought that was incredible.
It was.
And I think that's like with I'm gonna say it again, the communities that Alex built, for me is mind blowing. That like to us, every Friday you would just go and play football and have a wee in Man v Fat, but it was so much more than that. Like since he died, like there was an article about either the last charity match or the first one they did where Man v Fat interviewed Fionn and some of his close friends in Man v Fat, and some like the boys were just saying how Alex would see that they were struggling and just go up to them and say what's wrong, and then tell them how what they can do to help.
Even when Alex was
unbelievable,
when Alex was going through it, Man v Fat, there was loads of them. They were there for him, and he became their best friends. But you know, when he was in Man v Fat, he went there as a 16 and a half, 17 stone man. He didn't fucking tell him his background. Didn't say he'd had his Welsh Cup. Didn't say he was practically helped to get Red Lion where they are today. He never told him anything. But then he started playing football with them, and he's thinking, hang on a minute. You know, he'd come home and he'd say, a guy from Aberdeen asked me to go and sign for him. So he said, I'm not fit enough. And I'm looking at him. So I started going up to watch this. I was intrigued now. And I thought, I'm going up there. No. So I sat on my own in the stand. I was absolutely mortified, wasn't I? He's getting the ball, and he's smashing the ball now into the corner. And these boys, they couldn't do it like, they were on the mission like him to lose weight. I went down to the pitch, and I said, you serious or what? Just give him the ball by their feet as he knitting down there, expecting him to run after it, man. Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. But you know what? It became his life, didn't it?
It did, and
became
like
his life.
We were saying earlier, he had that really big transition where he lost loads of weight, and Man v Fat and the gym, I think, were the start of that journey. Where when he joined them 2 years of his life, he just had an absolute great time.
Yeah, he
loved it.
Yeah,
there was so much. It was so much that I want somebody to explain to me. Why am I in this position? I shouldn't be, nor should she.
No.
We shouldn't be here. If somebody wants to come and speak to me and tell me, great. If not, you're going to keep seeing me. That's the way I feel. You're going to keep seeing his face. You know? But like, with the hubs and the stuff that's going on in Merthyr, it was great.
Even days like the charity days, like I've mentioned, a lot of the fundraising that we do is the physically challenging thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, we're doing marathons in 3
'Cause that's
peaks,
very
and
much ours.
and that's very
Yeah.
much what we want to do. And like for us, well, for me, I've always wanted to push myself, but I was like, oh no, I don't want to. But it kind of gave me the kick that I was
Yeah.
like, if I'm going to do it for anyone, I'm going to do it for him.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that with these fundraisers, we have such a laugh. And the charity days.
It's like you said, it's community.
It's a community
It is,
spirit, isn't
yeah,
it?
it is. And,
You know, they all
and-
take the piss out of me because I do it on an electric bike.
which is cheating. It
Yeah,
is
but
cheating.
I got no option now.
No,
I
it's a
can't
joke.
do... I know, but like, I feel as if I've got to be part of it.
Yeah.
I
You
played
should
20
too.
minutes in the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, listen, right, that's me fucking done it all.
and that's the thing, again, coming out of something so tragic is these events that everyone just has a great time.
Yeah.
We're all there for Alex. We're
Yeah.
all there for, we have
Yeah.
a brilliant day.
Yeah, yeah.
The charity matches, I was really nervous for the first one because I was like, I don't know.
It's the epitome, innit?
You know,
It
it was the first big event.
He was a
that
football boy,
Alex,
like.
it was the
Yeah.
first big event I think that we were doing that he wasn't going to be there,
Yeah.
whereas ordinarily he would have been there.
Yeah.
And I can remember walking in and all the Red Lion boys were there, the Mamby Fat boys were there, and I kept on thinking, oh no, he's not you. And I just
Yeah.
kept on,
You
I'm
can
going to
feel
spot
he's there.
him.
The tunnel now.
Yeah.
It's like
The tunnel.
on the
But that-
shirts this year now, I'm putting a couple of other names of local people. I have spoken to them. Same scenario, you know.
And then, but them days are so positive. innit?
Yeah.
Everyone just has a great... The
Yes.
day you're playing football, there's people in the stands who don't really care and are there for the raffle and the
Yeah,
bands,
yeah.
but they've turned up sitting in the cold watching it, and
we have
we're
so
all
many
there for the same
donations
reason.
and everything, and
Yeah.
you know, I can't thank the community enough.
No.
For the support they've given us as a
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
People know that we didn't get what we deserved. I'm quite open about what happened that night and that morning, and people know that we didn't get to find out what happened to my son and her
Yeah.
brother, but we know there's people out there who do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And we can't do anything about it.
No.
We can't do anything about it. We just got to sit back and do what we're doing.
And hope it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, if we can get numbers down, you know, I get a load of phone calls. You can imagine what it's like at the moment. I'm quite open about it when they talk about, you know, it's like, as far as, because Alex had been to the crisis team once, Alex was a mental health case. That, you know, I get the mental health people ringing me 2 days after his death, saying they put in an inquiry in up there because he'd been up to see them. He went for a sick note because he didn't like working. And his words were, I'm starting uni, I'm going to finish. And my words were, go and get a sick note, put it in, and that's it.
Yeah.
Right? He had told me he wasn't happy. And I had turned around and said, perhaps I should have realised. I said, what, the kids get into you? But then I thought to myself, it wouldn't be the kids because I seen him with kids. No, it's the fucking teachers. That was his words. And I'm thinking, you know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, the school will never have nothing off me ever again.
No.
They have been no support to anybody. I offered to do stuff, they weren't interested. You know, that's fine, crack on, but you'll never be part of anything I do in the community ever. That's the way I feel.
But no, I think your donations and stuff that you're having and all the money you're raising, I think people know how passionate you are about.
Yeah,
And
I
how
got meeting people making cakes, man.
Well, yeah, and then but like you telling stories and stuff of your story,
Yeah.
and people or your close family friends and people know you that they know that you didn't have what you deserved.
Yeah,
And the resilience of you to have got to bite your tongue
yeah.
and go, right, okay, we didn't have it, but your passion to make sure that other people don't go
Yeah.
through what you've done, I think that's what's the main driver.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I've always said that. It was, we had to navigate this. Lucky Gemma switched on a bit more. I am pretty switched on, but like these youngsters are more switched on than what I am.
I wouldn't say young either.
And you've got to navigate this all yourself. Car insurances, banks. There's no support.
No.
So that's another mechanism we're looking at,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
when that comes alive now over there.
yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
there'll be something there that people can relate to because I'll do it with them.
Yeah, because I think sometimes when you're in a situation where you don't know what day it is,
Yeah.
but you've got to do all this
Yeah.
life
Yeah,
admin.
you know, it's
Yeah.
just,
You don't know where
it's
to
gotta keep
start.
going.
And even like I remember when we sat in the bank and the lady in the bank, she knew us.
Oh, okay.
And so but you know, like, knowing we had to say the words.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And so, like, having someone there to
kind of help and
list it
guide
out,
you.
say,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
this is
Guide you
this is what you've got to do. I think that, you know, that's something that I would really like to look into.
People ask me a lot as well, how do you cope with what you had to deal with that morning? And I remember speaking to Darren about it, and I spoke to you about it, and like I said, I didn't sleep for 9 days. But I went to see him.
Yeah.
Remember? I went to see him. I don't see him no more. Yeah. I walked in there, spent some time with him, and I don't see him no more. Yeah. I can't see, I know what's happened, but I can't see it. Yeah. It's gone. Yeah. That part's gone. I can't see it. I know what I had to do. I can talk about it, but I can't see it.
Yeah.
Like, is this, I don't know, is there something going on in my own mind? Am I playing tricks in my head? I don't know. Yeah. But it works for me because I
maybe like a safety mechanism.
Yeah, exactly. You know. But it's look, I can't thank the people around us, even you guys, for leaving us tell our story. A lot of people know it, a lot of people don't.
We appreciate it.
You know, bottom line is, I've got no faith in South Wales Police whatsoever. They're well aware of my feelings on them. You need to train your officers better, and they need to be more understanding.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a phone now that's no good to no one because I haven't got a SIM card. I haven't heard nothing else off them. They don't give a shit. You know, there was another instant. They asked me, did I want a certain thing back? And I told them no. And then I get a text 4 days later, are you picking this up? And it's on my phone. Yeah. They're an absolute disgrace. You know, we have been treated like absolute dog shit. And, you know, they told us they couldn't take a statement because he was on holidays. You might get a sergeant to do it. You might do it. And then you go to Farm Foods and there's 6 officers standing by a fridge laughing. Somebody just nicked a lamb, a leg of lamb. Yeah. But they couldn't do our statements. We had to wait. They didn't speak to the people involved for 5 months. It's just gone cold. Everything's just gone cold. And I got away with this. Yeah. Well, there might not be nothing to go away. I don't know. I don't know this. I don't know what's happened. And I want somebody to explain it to me. Yeah. The government have failed me, you know, through South Wales Police. So who else is going to tell me? Do you know anybody else? Because I don't. No. That's the way I feel. Yeah. You know. But no, you know, it's a tragic situation. Thanks to both of you for leaving us tell our story.
Thank you for coming.
Perhaps some days we will have our answers, but until we do, we can't answer anything for ourselves.
Yeah.
The hub, it's all going great.
Yeah.
We got loads of plans to raise money. Perhaps when you can join us. You can see me and you going up a Taff Trail on our electric bikes.
And just if anyone needs any support to reach out, because we are available and there is help out there.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
Anything to do with whatever. You know, if it's filling a form in or you're not sure how to handle stuff, from the mental health to the therapists, to just come in and sit in with me. Yeah. It's there. Yeah. Don't the other thing I wanted to say with your phones, don't threaten people on phones. And make sure you give somebody your PIN number.
Yes. Yeah, it's a good shout, actually.
That's really important. Because if you don't, you'll end up like us. Yeah. And we are still in that position now. You know, but like, guys, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very, very welcome.
Brilliant.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
And that's episode 34. Thank you so much for watching and listening. It's been, again, your support has been great. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and everything else. And
thank you very much.
Thank you.